Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure for me today to introduce our next speaker who will give a training about the topic is long-term mentoring and how not to do it. She's our club president and have years of experience as speakers and trainers. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome distinguished Toastmaster Harlina Indra.
Thank you very much, Terida. So I would like to ask you, your own members from Jakarta Bahasa, what do you think if if you're assigned to become a mentor of a new member, how long do you think you should mentor this member? If you think that you should at least mentor the member until he finishes level 1, which means 4 speeches, type 1. But if you think that you should mentor him at least until he finishes level 2, which are 7 speeches, type 2. So level 1 or level 2. How long do you think you should mentor a new member of Jabat if you are a mentor? Can you please write down in the chat box? Okay, so there are different opinions. Well, it is quite personal, but according to our VP Education, Toastmaster Akbar, he would advise to at least mentor a member until level 2. So meaning 7 speeches. If some of you may think, wow, 7 speeches, that's too long. Okay, I can say at least 5 speeches. 4 speeches from level 1 and 1 speech from level 2, which is usually understanding your leadership style or understanding your communication style, depending on which path you are following. So imagine, so 1 speech per month, meaning 5 months. Well, okay, 6 months. You can mentor a member, which is actually the same as the last step in the mentor program of pathways. Sorry. It's called advanced mentoring. In advanced mentoring, we are challenged to mentor a mentor during 6 months. And I'm wondering, this mentor program is actually a separate curriculum from the other paths. Who of you has already followed this mentor program? Can I have a show of hands? Who are you? Oh, yes. Okay, great. Thank you. I have also been following the mentor program, but to be honest, the last step about advanced mentoring, I have not really read it carefully. And unfortunately, the effect is very visible. I have a mentee, and he is already a Toastmaster for 1 year. And until now, he has still not finished his level 2. He still has to do 1 project. He is our current VP Education, Toastmaster Akbar, and I'm his club president, and we contact each other very often, but we only talk about the club. We do not talk about him, and which is actually not so good, yeah. And the only speech that he still has to give is the speech in which he has to explain his experiences as a mentee. And I hope he will not talk about his experiences as a mentee in Toastmasters, because then he will has to tell us how I have abandoned him in the middle of his path, and I haven't helped him at all. So how did I fail to help him? What did I not do? Let me share my screen. Okay. Oh, can you see my screen? Yes. Let me go to the next page. So what I did not do with Akbar is I should actually contact with him 2 hours per month. 2 hours per month. Now I would like to ask you, if you would contact your mentee about 2 hours per month, what communication channel would you use? Can you put in the chat box? Oh, cup of coffee. Okay, that it can be one thing. What else? Yes, WhatsApp call. Yes. Yes, indeed. That is indeed what I did, but I should have followed Sugondo's advice and also call him, because then the interaction is even better, right? Besides actually contacting him at least 2 hours per month, I should have actually, let me check. I should actually have, how do you call it? Tracked our meetings. So if I meet him, I should actually have written about that meeting, the date, the topic, and action. How do I do that? Well, let me check how I can get out of here. So this is actually a tracking log. So this is how we can actually write down every time we meet. It's a good way how to keep track of the meetings. And besides 2 hours per month and having a tracking log, actually I should have also checked on his goal. So about his progress, about his challenges, and relationship improvements. What else would you talk about if you would meet your mentor? Maybe you can unmute yourself and just shout out. What else would you talk about if you're a mentor?
You mean
Yes?
if we are the mentor
Yes,
or
what would
the
you talk about? Yes, if you're a mentor, what would you talk about? Yes,
like how's
thank
your
you.
day? Probably. How's life going on lately?
Yeah, that's great. Also, I see in the chat box about the project, about his goals. Yes, indeed. So, like I said earlier, about his progress, about his challenges, and about his relationship with me. What does he expect most, or what does he like or not really like? So now I would like to ask you, you have now heard 3 tips about how actually long-term mentoring should be done. What do you still remember from the 3 tips? Maybe a word or 2 words? You can write it in the chat box. If you remember at least 1 word. Yes, communication. Yes, indeed. So hopefully next time, hopefully, next time, hopefully, when I'm going to mentor Akbar, I should actually do the next thing. I should actually make time for him, 2 hours per month, whether it is text or WhatsApp call or even at least 1 Zoom call. I should also record in a tracking log, so I have an overview about our talkings, and then it reminds me myself that I have to talk to him. And also I hope that I can check on him per month about his progress. So apologies to Akbar, and see you next month. Back to the MC. Oh, which is me. Let me check